The topic of today's video is going to be how Democrats, and pretty much the fact that they are rebounding in terms of the United States Rust Belt. So when it comes down to a number of these races, pretty much the Rust Belt races, we will focus on the states of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan. Three states that almost flipped in terms of Minnesota, but did flip in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, that were solidly Democratic states for the longest time, and sometimes did get close in presidential elections, but haven't changed in terms, sometimes 24 to even 28 years in terms of presidential elections. So states like Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota were all Democratic states. Minnesota remained in the Democratic column, but by less than 2%. In Pennsylvania, Trump won here by 0.7%. Over in Wisconsin, it was less than 1%, along with the state of Michigan. So many people thought that Clinton would pretty much destroy Trump in terms of the presidential election, but nobody could have even foresaw that these states would flip, while states like Virginia and Colorado and Nevada would all remain in the Democratic column. It was a very big shock that states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and even Michigan, which was called later on, had flipped to the GOP, and Minnesota couldn't have been called till days after the election because Clinton did not have such a substantial lead as she did at the end of all votes being counted. Right now, we have on our screen the Trump versus Clinton polls, and Clinton finished off the presidential election at 2.1, a 2.1% lead in the state of Pennsylvania. So obviously, it did narrow down from where it was before. At some point in time, it was a 9.2% lead, dipped down, and then went back up to 9.2%, and then a lot happened, and then Clinton finished off at a 2.1% win. Donald Trump was able to flip the polls by around 3% and was able to win in the state of Pennsylvania. However, when we look at the numbers now, the incumbent Democrat not leading by 2.1% or even 5% or 10%, but by over 15%, a 15.5% lead for the incumbent governor, Tom Wolf. So right now, Pennsylvania isn't showing as Republican tendencies as it did in 2016. A lot of people said, oh, Pennsylvania was rated as safe for Hillary Clinton. Well, number one, it was not. Clinton was leading here by a mere 2.1%, well within the margin of error to flip to Donald Trump. In the state of Pennsylvania, however, in terms of the governor race in 2018, in a Democratic wave year, right now, Tom Wolf is decimating Scott Wagner in this race. He is leading consistently by double digits in every single poll taken. 16%, 19%, 13%, 14%. We are leading into the midterm elections, less than 80 days away from the midterms. And right now, the state of Pennsylvania, a state that possibly could be going Republican because of Donald Trump's presence here back in 2016, is now solid for the Democrats in terms of the governor race. Well, the Senate race possibly could be different, but it isn't. Bob Casey leads Lou Barletta by 15% in the most recent poll taken, by 16% earlier on, then 17%, then 15%, and now again another 15% lead for Bob Casey. Obviously, I do not expect him to win this race by 15%, but the fact that a Democrat currently is polling by these numbers in 2018 is phenomenal for the Democrats. Hillary Clinton didn't even reach these margins in the state of Pennsylvania. The most she led by was by around 10%, and that was pushing it. Right now, these Democratic candidates, even if they drop 10%, they still win their elections by 5% according to these polls, and they haven't changed much since the start of this race. However, we can go ahead and look at another state, the state of Wisconsin. This is the biggest flip because Clinton led here by 6.5% statewide on the day of ending polls, and then the final results were Trump plus 0.7. In fact, this was the first state called out of the Rust Belt for Donald Trump. Look at this, these numbers, and I guess you can make the argument. Well, overall, let's look at the overall numbers. Right now, the most Clinton led by was 12.5%, and that was very early on in the campaign season. She finished off with a 6.5% lead, and that's a very considerable amount. Keep in mind, Wisconsin was the only state, and I repeat, only state outside the margin of error that went for Donald Trump. This is the only state where polls were wrong, truly. They were not wrong in Michigan or Pennsylvania or Nevada, because all these states that either had Trump winning, that Clinton won, or Clinton winning, that Trump won, were all within the margin of error, which means that the pollsters came out with numbers and said, this is how it could possibly turn out if they had went the other way. We have this error built into the poll itself. Wisconsin was the only state that all the polls were without the outside the margin of error for a Donald Trump victory. But Clinton led here by 6.5% on Election Day, so around a 7% swing for the Republicans. Let's go ahead and look at the Wisconsin Senate race. Right now, Tammy Baldwin leads by 11%. So again, even if there is a 7-point Trump swing like what we saw in 2016, this race still goes to Tammy Baldwin by 4%. A more recent poll shows her leading by 2%, which is not good news, but still, the fact that previous polls showed her with a double-digit lead and not much changed in between them, again, this poll could be an outlier or a new trend for the GOP, so the Wisconsin Senate race is probably one of the key areas where the GOP possibly could do well. In terms of the Wisconsin governor race, well, we have a Republican incumbent. So right now, Tony Evers currently leads by 6.3%. The most recent poll shows a tie. But keep in mind, this is a two-term Republican incumbent from a state that went to Trump in 2016. To be completely honest with you, the Republicans should be polling ahead at this point in time. But again, a lot can happen leading into the campaign season. So Wisconsin currently has a negative 15% approval rating of the president, so don't count on Trump's appearance to be much in the state of Wisconsin for the Senate race or even the governor race. Minnesota, Trump versus Clinton again. Another state actually did go to Hillary Clinton. Final results, Clinton plus 1.5. But the polling numbers pretty much showed Clinton winning in all of these. One poll actually showed Trump winning by 3% in the state of Minnesota. If we look at the four-way race, we have here, again, some other polls, but there weren't as many taken, because a lot of people like to do one-on-one matchups. Not much taken in Minnesota, but they were correct. I mean, they said Hillary Clinton would win. And if we look at the polls now, Amy Klobuchar leads by 22%, according to these polls. And looking at her approval rating, I don't doubt it. To be completely honest with you, she could possibly win by this margin. And this is already rated as safe Democratic in terms of the Real Clear Politics map. So Minnesota, safe for the Democrats. And in the special election, it obviously could get a little bit closer because of previous history with the seat. But Tina Smith right now consistently leading in opinion polling, which is pretty much expected. But here is where it really matters in terms of these races, because the special election and the general election for the Senate race is already expected to go to the Democrats. The Minnesota governor race actually has the possibility of going towards the GOP. And right now, Tim Walz leads by 6% statewide. So that is very, very good for the Democrats at this point in time. And the final state that flipped to Donald Trump was the state of Michigan. Hillary Clinton had a 3.6% lead here. The final results were a 0.3% win for Donald Trump. So within the margin of error, but the largest, point for Hillary Clinton was when she led by 12%, leading into the end of 2016. And then a couple things happened. Comey led her, she dropped, and finished off at a 3.6% lead. So obviously still leading statewide, but Donald Trump was able to flip it by around 4%. But let's go ahead and take a polling now. Debbie Stabenow leads by 17.3%. So even if it is a 4% lead switch, she wins by 13%. It's going to be very hard for the GOP to win in any of these key Rust Belt states. And you may think that the governor race could be a little bit different. Well, right now, Whitmer leads by 8.2% and 15% in the most recent poll. So if you take 4% away from her, she still wins by 4.2% according to the average. And keep in mind, there is an incumbent Republican. So again, the Republicans should be at a point where they could be doing a little bit better than before. So right now, Gretchen Whitmer seems like she's on track to become the next governor from the state of Michigan. So overall, wrapping up with everything in this map, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan are also showing a lot more Democratic tendencies than where they did in 2016, and outperforming in all of the races where Trump was able to flip from Hillary to Trump come the end of 2018. So again, Pennsylvania, even if the Republican candidate's able to flip it by 3%, all the races go to the Democrats. Same case in Minnesota, same case in Wisconsin, and Michigan. So thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all tomorrow.